Good morning, all my dear students of the Egyptian School. Today, I'm happy to be with all the students of Primary 6 in the first session in the Science syllabus for the first term. In the Science syllabus for the first term, we study 4 units, and today we are going to start with Unit 1. The title of Unit 1 is Force and Motion. Force and Motion is the title for Unit 1. In Unit 1, we study only one lesson, and the title for Lesson 1 in Unit 1 is Mass and Weight. Mass and Weight is the title of the first lesson that the unit includes. But before we talk about mass and weight and the meaning of each one of them, let me ask you, do you remember the meaning of matter? To remember the meaning of matter, we have to back to Primary 4. In Primary 4, we said that for any object to be considered as a matter, it should have mass and volume. It should have mass and volume. And let me remind you of the meaning of volume. We know that volume is the space that an object occupies, or the space occupied by a matter. So, matter is anything that has mass and volume, and we studied this definition in Primary 4. Now to the physical states of matter. Physical states of matter. In Primary 4, we just call them as states of matter, but today in Primary 6, we call them as physical states of matter, and they are the same. We can call them physical states of matter or states of matter. We have different states of matter. I just brought you examples for some of the states of matter. Here I have water, and we all know that water is an example for the liquid state of matter, and we can also mention many other examples like juice, milk, or oil. Here I have a piece of wood, and we know that wood is an example for the solid state of matter. For the gaseous state of matter, we have the air with its different components: oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and the other gases in the air. So, matter is anything that has mass and volume, and the physical states of matter are 3 main states, which are solid state, liquid state, and gaseous state. And now to the meaning of mass. As I said, the title of our lesson is Mass and Weight. Look at these 2 pieces of gold. We have golden necklace and golden ring. Golden necklace and golden ring. Each one of them is made of the same material. I mean, each one of them is made of gold. But the golden necklace is heavier than the golden ring, which means that the amount of gold in the golden necklace is greater than the amount of gold in the golden ring. I'm saying that we have golden necklace and golden ring. The golden necklace is bigger than or heavier than the golden ring, which means that the amount of matter, I mean the amount of gold in the golden necklace is greater than or bigger than in the golden ring. So, I can say that the mass of the golden necklace is greater than or bigger than the mass of the golden ring because the amount of matter in the golden necklace is greater than the amount of matter in the golden ring. As a general conclusion of what we say now, we can say that mass is the amount of matter in an object. The amount of matter in an object. The golden necklace has a greater mass because it has a greater amount of gold, while the golden ring has a smaller mass because it has smaller amount of gold. Another example here, we have 2 plates. I give them letters A and B. I have plate A and the plate B. In plate A, I have 3 apple fruits. 3 apple fruits. But in plate B, I have a greater number of apple fruits. You can count them. But anyway, I can say that the amount of apple fruits in plate A is greater than smaller than the amount of apple fruits in plate A is smaller than the amount of apple fruits in plate B, which means that the amount of matter here in plate A is smaller than it in plate B, so the mass of the apple fruit in plate A, which contains the 3 apple fruits, is smaller than it in plate B, which contains larger number or greater amount of apple fruits. As a general conclusion, and finally, we come to the meaning of mass. Mass is the amount of matter in an object. The amount of matter in an object. And the object that has a greater amount of matter will have a greater mass. Now we have a very important question. How can we measure the mass of objects? Some tools or some devices can be used to measure the mass. Now we are studying the measuring devices or the measuring tools. In primary 4 you call them as measuring tools, but today we can call them as measuring devices, and both are right. You can use any one of them. The first device which can be used to measure the mass of any object is balance scale. This is called balance scale. On the balance scale, it has, as you see, it has two arms. Here I can put the object, and on the other side I can measure the mass. Another device used to measure the mass is called digital scale, or one-arm digital scale, and this device is commonly used. This device is commonly used in the supermarkets or in the hypermarkets. As you see, this is a digital screen. The amount of matter will be written here in the digital screen in the form of numbers or in the form of digits. And here I can put the object. Another device is called one-arm scale with pointer. One-arm scale with pointer, and this is a pointer that I'm talking about. The pointer will move and stop at the number that gives the accurate amount of matter, and in this plate we can put the object that we want to measure its mass. And finally, for the precious or the expensive objects like gold and silver, we can use the sensitive two-arm scale. Sensitive two-arm scale, which is used for the small masses like gold, silver, and diamond. And now for the measuring units of mass. The measuring units of mass. If you buy a piece of gold, the amount of gold that you buy will be measured in a certain unit. For small objects like gold, silver, and the precious, the expensive objects, we can use a unit called gram. We can use a unit or a measuring unit called gram. And the gram is the measuring unit for the very small objects. For the very small object, as I mentioned before, like chemicals, like gold and silver. And the mass of only 1 gram, or the amount of matter in 1 gram, is nearly equal to the amount of matter in 1 paper clip. The amount of matter in 1 gram is nearly equal to the amount of matter in 1 paper clip. So we say that gram is the measuring unit for the small masses, and it is nearly equal to the mass of 1 paper clip. And this is a paper clip that we talk about. For large objects, now to the large objects like fruits and vegetables. For the large objects like fruits and vegetables, I can say that I went to the supermarket and I bought some fruits. The amount of matter that you buy, before you pay the money, you should know what is the amount of matter that you bought. The amount of matter that you bought will be measured in kilograms. Kilograms. Kilogram is a measuring unit for the large objects or the large masses, as I said before, fruits or vegetables, and it is nearly equal to the mass of 1 liter of distilled water. Kilogram is a measuring unit for large masses like fruits and vegetables, and it is nearly equal to the mass of 1 liter of distilled water. I think this is maybe it's your first time to hear about the distilled water. What is meant by distilled water? Look at this apparatus and tell me. Here I have a burner, and here I have a round flask. In the round flask I put some water. I heat the water till boiling. And boiling means to change the water from its liquid state to gaseous state, or from water to water vapor. Here the water vapor will pass and move through this tube, and the water droplets or the droplets of the water vapor will be condensed in the inner surface of this tube, and they fall here. The water here doesn't contain any minerals. It's pure water. So the distilled water is the water produced from heating the water till boiling and receiving its water vapor in a cold surface. So 1 liter of this distilled water is nearly equal to 1 kilogram. It's nearly equal to 1 kilogram, or nearly equal to the mass of 1 kilogram. And now it's time to test yourself. It's your homework. Mention one use for each of the following devices. Number 1, balance scale. Balance scale. I'll back to the balance scale to remind you what did we say about the balance scale. This is a balance scale, and as I mentioned before, it is used for measuring or as a measuring device of mass. So the answer for that question is the balance scale is a measuring device of mass, like the one-arm digital scale, the one-arm scale with pointer, and finally we have the sensitive two-arm scale. Then we talked about the measuring units of mass. We have 2 units. One of them is used for the small objects, which is gram. Gram is used for the small objects like gold and silver, and the mass of 1 gram is nearly equal to the mass of 1 paper clip. Then to the unit which is used for the large objects like fruits and vegetables, which is called kilograms. And as I mentioned before, the mass of 1 kilogram is nearly equal to the mass of 1 liter of distilled water. And as I mentioned before, this is your homework. Now to the end of the first session of Science Syllabus. Thanks for watching. See you later in other videos.